No one can break you. Most men spend their lives seeking permission, permission to speak, permission to act, permission to exist as they truly are. They shrink themselves to fit into rooms that were never built for them. They silence their ambitions to avoid making others uncomfortable. And slowly, without even realizing it, they disappear. Not from the world, from themselves. This is the first trap. The need to be accepted, the need to belong, the need to be understood by people who were never meant to understand you. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He understood that the majority of men are not controlled by force. They are controlled by their own hunger for approval. And the moment that hunger takes root, freedom ends. The dangerous man has killed that hunger, not because he is cold, not because he is empty, but because he understands something most men never will. You cannot build power on the opinions of others. Opinions change, people change, loyalty changes. The only foundation that never shifts is the one you build inside yourself. That is what this is about. Not aggression, not dominance, self-mastery. The kind of power that cannot be taken because it was never given to you by someone else. The cost of being liked. Every time you change your opinion to avoid conflict, you pay a price. Every time you hide your ambition to avoid judgment, you pay a price. Every time you accept disrespect to keep the peace, you pay a price. And the currency you are spending is yourself. Most men never count the cost. They tell themselves they are being flexible, being mature, being the bigger person, but there is a difference between choosing peace and surrendering your identity to purchase it. Machiavelli understood a brutal truth. The man who needs to be liked can always be controlled. Not through threats, not through force, simply through the fear of disapproval. Show him that you might withdraw your validation, and he will do almost anything to get it back. This is how most people are managed. In relationships, in workplaces, in friendships. The invisible leash of approval. You never see the collar, but you feel it every time you hesitate to speak the truth, every time you agree with something you don't believe, every time you perform a version of yourself designed for someone else's comfort. The dangerous man has removed that leash, not by becoming hostile, not by burning every bridge, but by transferring his source of validation from the outside world to the inside. He no longer asks, "What do they think of me?" He asks, "What do I think of myself?" That shift changes everything. Decisions become cleaner. Boundaries become natural. Self-respect becomes the compass instead of the crowd. There is a word most people misunderstand. Confidence. They think it means not caring what others think. That is not what it means. It means caring more about your own judgment than theirs. It means being able to hear criticism without collapsing. Being able to stand alone without panic. Being able to walk away from approval without feeling like you are losing something essential. That is the dangerous man. Not someone who needs the room to fear him. Someone who does not need the room at all. Fear is the invisible ruler. Behind every life that never became what it could have been, there is fear. Not failure, not bad luck, not the wrong circumstances. Fear. The kind that never introduces itself. The kind that disguises itself as reason, as caution, as wisdom. Fear says wait until you are ready. But ready never comes. Fear says the timing is not right, but the timing never becomes right. Fear says what if it doesn't work? And that question echoes long enough to become an answer. Machiavelli understood that fear is perhaps the most powerful force in human nature. Armies have been built on it. Empires have collapsed because of it. And the most dangerous version of fear is not the kind that makes you run. It is the kind that makes you stay still. Most men obey fears they have never examined. They inherited them from childhood. They absorbed them from people who were also afraid. And they carry them forward as if they were facts about the world rather than stories about their own hesitation. The dangerous man does something different. He looks directly at his fear. He does not perform courage by pretending the fear does not exist. He acknowledges it. He asks, "What is this protecting me from?" He asks, "Is that threat real or imagined?" And most of the time, he discovers that the fear was guarding a door he was always meant to walk through. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something else matters more. Purpose matters more. Growth matters more. The man you are becoming matters more than the comfort of staying who you were. While others retreat, the dangerous man advances, not recklessly, not blindly, but with the understanding that every significant life requires walking through discomfort, that every transformation lives on the other side of hesitation, that the version of you capable of the life you want cannot be reached without passing through fear first. This is not inspiration. This is mechanics. This is how change actually works. You do not think your way past fear. You move through it. Action dissolves what imagination inflates. Remember this. The fear you keep avoiding grows stronger every time you avoid it. The fear you confront loses power every time you face it. The dangerous man knows this. That is why he moves toward discomfort rather than away from it. That is why his world keeps expanding while most people's worlds quietly shrink. Emotional detachment is power. Nothing makes a man easier to control than emotional dependency. The need to be loved, the need to be chosen, the need for someone else to confirm that you are enough. These are not weaknesses because they are human. They are weaknesses because they can be exploited. And in a world where people are constantly calculating, any dependency becomes leverage for those willing to use it. Machiavelli understood this clearly. The more desperately a man needs something, the less power he holds over it. Need creates attachment. Attachment creates vulnerability, and vulnerability invites manipulation from anyone patient enough to find it. The dangerous man builds his inner world differently. He does not place his peace in the hands of people who can leave. He does not build his identity around things that can be taken. He learns to care without becoming controlled, to value without becoming dependent, to love without surrendering the part of himself that exists independently of anyone else. This is not coldness. Cold men feel nothing. The dangerous man feels everything. He simply refuses to be ruled by what he feels. Most men collapse under rejection. They collapse under betrayal. They collapse under loss, because they had placed something essential, some piece of their stability, in something outside themselves. And when that thing disappeared, the foundation cracked. The dangerous man weeps if he must. He feels pain if it comes, but he does not build his home inside that pain. He processes it. He extracts what it teaches him, and he moves forward because the past cannot be changed, and suffering beyond understanding is simply waste. Emotion is information. As a master, it is destruction. The man who can observe his own feelings without being consumed by them holds an enormous advantage over men who are constantly at the mercy of theirs. Calmer mind, clearer thinking, better decisions. These are not separate things. They are the same thing, and they are only available to the man who has learned to hold his emotions rather than be held by them. Patience is a weapon. Speed impresses. Patience defeats. Most men want things now, results now, answers now, revenge now, validation now, and that impatience is not ambition. It is weakness wearing ambition's face. Because the man who cannot wait is the man who can be provoked. The man who cannot wait is the man who makes decisions from emotion rather than calculation. The man who cannot wait reveals his intentions before the moment is right. And in doing so, he hands his opponents exactly what they need. Machiavelli understood timing as a form of intelligence. The right move made too early becomes the wrong move. The right words spoken before the moment is prepared fall on deaf ears. Power is not just about what you do. It is about when. The dangerous man has developed tolerance for the uncomfortable space between action and result. He can sit with uncertainty. He can move forward without needing immediate confirmation that he is right. He can wait while others scramble. He can observe while others react. And in that patience, he collects what impatient men always miss. Information, patterns, the truth beneath the surface of things. Because time reveals what charm conceals. Time reveals what loyalty claims to be before it is tested. Time reveals whether a man's actions match his words, whether a plan holds under pressure, whether an opportunity is real or simply dressed to look like one. The patient man sees these things. The impatient man has already moved on, already reacted, already played his hand before the game was ready. This is why patience is not passive. Patience is the most active form of discipline. It requires constant resistance against the pull of emotion, constant choice to think rather than feel, constant commitment to the long game when every instinct demands the short one. The dangerous man is patient not because he is slow. He is patient because he understands that the right moment, carefully waited for, is worth more than 100 premature moves made from desperation. People always reveal themselves. No one can hide forever. This is one of the most reliable truths about human nature. People believe they are mysterious. They believe they are complex. They believe their masks are solid. But masks require effort to maintain. And over time, effort fades. Character does not reveal itself in comfort. Anyone can appear loyal when there is nothing to lose. Anyone can appear honest when honesty costs nothing. Anyone can appear generous when the gesture is easy. But apply pressure, introduce scarcity, create something to gain or lose, and the mask begins to slip. Machiavelli spent his life studying human behavior at its most unguarded. In courts, in wars, in negotiations where everything was at stake, and what he found was consistent. People are driven by self-interest. Not always consciously, not always maliciously, but reliably. The dangerous man accepts this not with bitterness, but with clarity. He does not expect people to be better than they are. He does not trust declarations. He watches behavior. He pays attention to what people do when they think no one is watching, how they treat people who cannot benefit them, whether their actions over time match the image they project. This is not cynicism. Cynicism assumes the worst. The dangerous man assumes nothing. He observes. He allows patterns to form. He lets time do the work that judgment too often rushes. And because he is watching, he is rarely surprised. He sees the betrayal before it happens. Not through paranoia, but through attention. He sees the loyalty before it is tested, not through blind faith, but through evidence accumulated quietly over time. Most people are too distracted to do this. They are caught in their own emotions, their own needs, their own narrative about who they want people to be. And so reality repeatedly contradicts their expectations. The dangerous man has fewer expectations, more observations, and because of that, fewer betrayals. Not because the world treats him better, but because he sees it more clearly. Discipline creates the man. Every version of power you have ever admired was built by discipline. Not talent, not luck, not connection. Discipline. The willingness to do what needs to be done on the days when nothing inside you wants to do it. This is the part most men avoid understanding, because understanding it removes every excuse. You cannot blame your circumstances once you accept that discipline is a choice made moment by moment regardless of circumstances. You cannot blame your past once you accept that each day is a new vote cast for the man you are becoming. Machiavelli understood that unstable foundations produce unstable power, and nothing is more unstable than a man whose actions depend on how he feels. Motivation comes and goes. Inspiration comes and goes. Emotion comes and goes. The man who waits for the right feeling before taking the right action will spend his entire life waiting. The dangerous man does not wait. He has built systems within himself that operate independently of his emotional weather. He works when he does not want to work. He trains when he does not want to train. He keeps his word to himself when breaking it would be easier. And every single time he does this, something accumulates, not just skill, not just progress, identity. Because you do not become disciplined by thinking about discipline. You become disciplined by acting against your own resistance, repeatedly, until the resistance weakens and the action becomes who you are. This is how powerful men are made, not in moments of inspiration, in moments of resistance, in the quiet battles no one sees, when comfort said stop and something deeper said continue. Those moments, chosen correctly, stack into a life that most men only ever imagine. The man who controls himself in small things builds the capacity to control himself in large ones. The man who keeps promises to himself develops the authority to keep them to others. The man who refuses to negotiate with his own excuses becomes the man who cannot be negotiated with by the world. That is the transformation. From a man ruled by feelings to a man who rules them. From a man shaped by circumstances to a man who shapes them. from someone who reacts to someone who decides. The power of being unpredictable. The man who is easy to read is easy to control. Once people know how you will react, they know how to manage you. They know what will provoke you, what will flatter you, what will silence you, what will make you move. And with that knowledge, they hold a kind of power over you that requires no force at all. Machiavelli understood that mystery is a form of protection, not deception, not manipulation, simply the discipline to not reveal everything, to keep your plans private until they become results, to keep your emotions guarded until you choose to express them, to keep your next move unknown until you make it. Most men are transparent, not because they are honest, because they are undisciplined. They announce their goals before achieving them. They share their pain before processing it. They explain their decisions to people who never asked. And in doing so, they give away leverage they did not know they were carrying. The dangerous man understands that silence is a strategy. Not every question deserves an answer. Not every provocation deserves a reaction. Not every person deserves access to the full truth of what you are building and what you are feeling. There is also a deeper advantage to unpredictability. It makes you difficult to manipulate. People struggle to influence what they cannot accurately model. When your reactions are consistent and predictable, you become a machine that can be operated. When your reactions are principled but not automatic, you become something that cannot easily be controlled. The dangerous man's responses are chosen, not performed, not suppressed, chosen. He decides when to speak and when to be silent. He decides when to act and when to wait. He decides what to reveal and what to protect. And that constant exercise of choice keeps him in control of himself when the world is trying to take that control away. No one has fully figured him out. And that mystery is not accidental. It is the product of discipline applied consistently over time. The product of a man who understands that what you do not reveal cannot be used against you. Becoming untouchable. After everything, one truth stands above all others. The man who has mastered himself cannot be controlled by the world, not because he is the strongest, not because he is feared, but because he no longer carries the weaknesses that make control possible. He does not need approval, so approval cannot be withheld to punish him. He does not fear loss, so the threat of loss cannot redirect him. He does not depend on comfort, so removing comfort cannot stop him. He does not build his identity on unstable things, so when unstable things collapse, he does not collapse with them. Machiavelli's deepest insight was this: true power begins internally, before influence over nations, before authority over men, before any external achievement. It begins with the ability to govern yourself, your impulses, your fears, your hunger for things that make you vulnerable, your need for things that others can take away. The man who achieves that governance becomes something rare, not just powerful, genuinely free. Free from the emotional manipulation that controls most people. Free from the social pressure that shapes most decisions. Free from the fear that keeps most men small and cautious and contained within lives that were designed for them by others. This freedom is not comfortable at first. It requires giving up things that felt like necessities: the warmth of approval, the safety of belonging, the comfort of being understood. These are real losses in the beginning. But what you gain in return is something that cannot be purchased or borrowed or given to you by anyone else. You gain yourself, fully, without compromise, without performance, without the constant exhausting effort of being someone you were never meant to be. That is the untouchable man. Not the man who cannot be hurt, but the man who cannot be broken. The man who absorbs difficulty and continues, who faces opposition and adjusts, who loses and learns, who is tested and becomes stronger because of the testing. The world will continue to apply pressure. That is its nature. It tests every structure to find the weakness. The untouchable man has done that work himself first. He has found his own weaknesses, faced them, and built something stronger in their place, and so when the world applies pressure, it finds nothing to grip. No fear to exploit, no approval to withdraw, no comfort to remove, no identity built on sand, only a man. Standing on ground he built himself, impossible to move, impossible to break, impossible to control. That is the goal, not domination, mastery. Mastery of self, because it is the only form of power that no one can take from you. The only form of freedom that does not depend on circumstance. The only foundation strong enough to build anything that lasts. Master yourself, and nothing in this world will ever fully master you.